Hello, and welcome to CultureCast. My name is Tone, and I'm the founder and CEO of Culture Intelligence. This is a series from us in Culture Intelligence where we talk with key culture intelligent leaders and stakeholders in society right now. To talk about this, we have a guest who has worked with digital innovation in the energy sector for a decade. He just celebrated 3 years as a board member of OG21, or Oil and Gas for the 21st Century. He recently also spent 3 years in Palo Alto establishing, building, and managing the Schlumberger Silicon Valley Digital Innovation Center, called STIC. He still loves to visit Silicon Valley, just came back actually, to introduce more people and organizations to the energy of this ecosystem. He's promoting things as groundbreaking machine learning-driven geophysical interpretation and low-carbon technology, and he travels around the world promoting innovation with the Schlumberger Innovation Factori project. Welcome to us, Global Director of Innovation Factori, Morten Jensen.
Thank you very much, Tone, and thank you so much for the invitation to come here and talk with you today.
I so much look forward to this, and let's start with your sort of background. How long have you been obsessed by innovation, Morten?
I would have to say I've always been obsessed with innovation. My background is studying in computer science and software engineering from NTNU and from University of California. And I've always seen a big untapped potential in the organizations and the projects and the technologies that I've worked with. I'm impatient as well. I want to see results. I don't believe in technology for its own sake. I believe that technology is there to serve a purpose. So that is what has to be the driver for innovation for me. And I'm very lucky to work in an industry that's always been fast to put new technology to use. So that's been kind of my day-to-day existence is to, what is the latest and greatest technologies and how can we put them to use to make a big impact for our industry?
Yeah, great.
And I think you may like this one, Tone.
Okay.
Because I've always seen innovation as not just about technology, but, equally much about culture and people.
Right.
Without focus on that, we will not achieve the results we want.
This is my man. Fantastic. Yeah, that's what I've seen in your posts on social media also, that you always have something about the people. That's why you got my attention in the first place. I think it's wonderful and the project is so exciting. So we'll dig into that. But how long have you worked in Schlumberger?
I worked with Schlumberger for my whole career. So that is over 25 years actually. Right. So I worked with technology in this business for a long time.
Right.
But in my company, we change roles every few years. So I've done so many different things, and I've worked in different places around the world, and always with the passion towards innovation and technology.
Yeah, that's cool. That you can do that, and you sort of change jobs without really changing jobs.
Exactly.
But company. So let's dig into the Oil and Gas 21 Century, that project. Tell me about the project.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been a board member of OG21 for 3 years now. And, in Norway, we have a strong tradition for working together across organizations to make things happen. It's really a unique collaboration on technology innovation and adoption between energy companies, oil and gas companies, technology and service companies, such as the one I represent, the government, the research and universities, employer and employee organizations, unions, and so on. We all work together to make things happen, and OG21 is an organization like that. We give advice to the government and the industry on technology adoption and innovation within oil and gas. And there are similar organizations for transportation, for energy, and for digital. And these organizations have a long history of making things happen in technology. And of course, in the North Sea, we solved tremendous challenges through the years. And at the same time, we have one of the cleanest, safest, and most efficient oil and gas ecosystems in the world. And this tradition continues now full force. And there are three major drivers these days. It's, of course, the net zero future, the low carbon solutions of the future. It's the reliable and stable energy supply that we see so much in the news today. And cost-effective operations, after a much more volatile business climate in this industry. This amazing ecosystem is actually the reason why we selected Norway as the first innovation factory center in Europe for our company.
That's really cool. And if I've been discussing this with some other companies also, that this energy transformation, you can say, that goes on right now. It's really hard because, first of all, it needs to be more renewable, but now when the prices are so high, it's tempting in a way to at least increase the fossil fuel also. So there must be a tremendous dilemma. That's one thing I think is really interesting. But also when you look for new things, technology adoption and adoption and all that. So there must be hard to choose, or how do you know what really matters in this work?
I think you're spot on, because it is a balancing act. There are no easy and quick fixes in this world. I am a technology optimist. I think the technology, we can make that happen. It's the stuff around the technology that is maybe the biggest challenge, but we see a lot of positive things, in terms of the governments, in terms of the global organizations, in terms of companies setting net zero targets, for example, for 2050. It's a great rallying cry for change. But we also see major setbacks, like we have now in the war in Ukraine, which is not good for the environment either, right? And it's also very much related to energy and energy supply.
And it causes tremendous challenges for everyone else. So it's a big global challenge, not only an oil and gas problem.
So we have to solve the net zero problem while we secure a stable and reliable energy supply. There is no other choice. Otherwise, we will not even achieve the energy goals that we have.
So this is like a public or government organized.
It's true. OG21 is a government, and it's a unique organization type that we have in Norway, and that many other countries are interested in following and emulating.
Oh, that would be, and you are selected to be in that.
I get to be one of the people representing the technology companies in this organization.
That's really cool. That I would love to learn more about that. But you also have another project, and that was really what caused my interest in the first place.
It's true, Tone. It's Innovation Factory with an I. That thanks to our marketing department, I think. But what it really does, if you look at our logo, it allows us to have AI in both innovation and in factory. So if you look at our logo, you see AI in both of those words. No, it's really about creating a global ecosystem for groundbreaking innovation. And this is between technology companies and energy and oil and gas companies around the world. And so this is within my company, Schlumberger. We run this globally. And in the Innovation Factory, we work on everything from carbon capture and storage, emission control, wind power, energy, and carbon management. And then also, of course, a cleaner and more efficient technology for oil and gas as we go forward. So this is about inviting all the companies in our industry together to have projects to really drive and groundbreaking innovation and change. So we want to make a difference. It's not just about the incremental improvements here, and to play a role in accelerating the innovation and change that we need. Also because of the net zero targets that we have and all the challenges that we just talked about. Yeah,
that sounds really, really promising, but again, it kicks in my mind at least. It also sounds very hard, because if we know there's one thing that is hard, is to have people agree and really do something in a different way. So how well is that project going?
Well, it is going really well, but there are some key obstacles, of course, and there are a few trends that we see these days. Challenges because so many companies are working on this over the last few years, right?
Tell me.
So we are seeing tremendous results, but also challenges. And one challenge is what we kind of often call the innovation dilemma, which is, there's so many successful pilots and proof of concepts, this early stage innovation with big celebrations and really good projects with great impact. But it is much harder to scale and integrate these technologies into our workflows, and integrate them with other technologies and really put them to use. And really, put them in the hands of the end users in the enterprise, if you like. So So this is a challenge everybody are grappling with at the moment, and it's very high at the forefront of our strategy as we go forward to really be a trusted partner throughout this life cycle of innovation.
Can I just stop you there? I know
Sure.
you have more, but this is the super interesting thing, I think, because let's say you have had a very successful pilot, and then you say it's hard to scale it. Let's go in there. Why is that hard?
So let's start with the technology part of that.
Yeah.
So, of course, in digital, it's a lot about using artificial intelligence, machine learning, and integrate that with traditional ways of working.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence is fantastic, but one of the challenges is it's very context dependent. If you train it on one data set, it's going to learn a lot about that context, about that data set, but maybe not so much about other contexts. So, in our industry, for example, we have a lot of technologies that want to understand the geology of the underground, many kilometers down. And, those geologies have different characteristics, whether you're in the North Sea or in Africa, for example. And this means that you may have to retrain the models, but you may also have to change the models to work in a different way.
Yeah.
So this is part of the scaling. And then you have to integrate it, because if you had like 1,000 different standalone technologies, you would have to import data, export data in different formats. Yeah. So this is about making it work together in the whole ecosystem, so that it's really efficient to put to use.
Yeah.
So that's part of the technology of this.
Yeah. Well, I'm a geophysicist, so I can easily relate to the problems you are saying. So in different geological formations, of course, will require different data sets, which makes sense. But is this also approaching that geophysicists will be in surplus, or will it take over geophysicist jobs, or is it just going to improve it, or how does that work?
So that is definitely a question we get asked a lot.
I would imagine.
Yeah, and luckily for us, we can usually put the domain experts, the geophysicists or the geologists or the energy experts at ease.
Okay.
So really, what we're doing is improving the work of these professionals, because there's a lot of tedious work. As a geophysicist, a geophysicist can spend days picking faults, for example, from like the geological faults. It is an expert job, but it's a tedious job that takes a long time. These are the types of things that we are now able to automate, so that you can hopefully have a more interesting job and kind of focus on the key part of what we're trying to achieve.
That's cool. So you increase precision in a way, and efficiency. So you can
increase efficiency and increase precision.
Yeah.
And one way to increase precision is that before we could usually work on one or two cases. You have to select some parameters, and then you work on those scenarios, if you like.
Yeah.
Now with the automation, you can do 100 scenarios and select from them. So that's one way that you increase the precision.
Yeah, that's so cool. So that technological approach. What more do you do?
Well, when it comes to the challenges, then we touched on the technology challenges, but I think we need to touch on the people and the organizational challenges as well. Yeah. So this is all about, it's about two things. It's about creating the technology, and then it's about putting it to use. And both of them, as we talked about earlier, I do believe is very people-centric and culture-centric work that we do.
Yeah.
First of all, to create the technology, we have to have a safe and environment and an exciting environment that is driving that change. As an organization, that we all pull in the same direction.
Yeah.
And of course, to put the technology in use, it's the change management of the organization. Yeah. It's a big job to even with the best technology, you need a lot of focus on that to have a successful transformation of those companies.
Yeah.
So I think that's another challenge that we are seeing across the board these days, which needs a lot of attention as well.
Yeah. So how do you approach that people issue now?
So one thing is just, people don't necessarily want to be changed. They want to be part of, they want to help drive that change and influence it. And that's the fun part of what I do, is that these innovation projects, we have, more than 70 of these going on now around the world. And in these projects, the geophysicists, the geologists, the production experts, the wind power experts, they are participating in these projects, and they get to influence the future of their work. And that, I think, tends to be very motivating for these people. So that's a big help.
Right. So that's what you do when I see these great pictures about happy people and clapping hands and waving.
We may have achieved huge improvement in efficiency or accuracy of a project. We're celebrating that together, and then we don't spend too much time celebrating. We also then look forward. Well, how can we make it even better? Basically.
Yeah. So what would perfect look like in your eyes?
I think a lot. We have a lot of silos within organizations, between organizations, and within those silos, it's working quite well at the moment. There's a lot of things happening. Unfortunately, or fortunately, the big challenge is across these silos, across the organization, to solve those big challenges, all the way up, for an individual organization, but all the way up to climate change, right? It is something we have to do together. So a perfect world for me is a culture that is not just open for innovation, but that is also inclusive, that is open to work across boundaries, across silos. And that can be within an organization, between organizations, or even at the macro level.
Yeah. So that to me is a culture where you are able to combine not only competencies but different approaches to a problem, and can share insights and can build on each other's ideas and really make the collective work, not only the individual parts.
Absolutely, and you have to be tolerant for differences in culture and company culture, individual people, awareness. And I'm fortunate right now, as you said, I'm traveling the world. I've recently, just the last few weeks, been in Rio and in Kuala Lumpur and in the Middle East. Great people, great challenges in every environment, but there are cultural differences, and we have to learn to work together to achieve what we want to do.
And not only maybe work together, but work in an innovation culture.
Yes.
So that's what I'm curious about, and that's what we have talked about too.
Yeah.
How can we define the innovation culture that is right for you and build it, and have everyone sort of step up to that culture and focus on that more than the individual or regional or national differences probably. So how do you approach, or what are your experiences in that approach?
So we sometimes run projects between organizations that may be just like 4 months or half a year or 1 year long or multiple years, but it's a dynamic world. So some of this stuff that we always done with team building, forming, storming, norming has to happen quickly in this world. And one of the things we have in common across these cultures is then this innovation culture that we talk about, some of those attributes of that. So we really have to build on that and to strengthen the teams quickly so that we can get off the ground. And to do that, we do a lot of things, but one of them is just to get early results, early wins. There is nothing more team building than to have some success on a project. So we try to pay a lot of attention to that, for example.
Yeah. I'm curious about another thing, because I've also worked on in an American oil and gas company. So, and one thing that was important there was not to do mistakes, which is quite the contrary for having an innovation culture. So, not do mistake culture and innovation culture. How do you combine those two?
Oh, that's very important, and I don't think it's just in our industry that is a challenge. And of course, in innovation, you have to be open to fail. And fail usually means that you try to learn fast. You try something that doesn't quite work, so you try something else. So we kind of work in these micro cycles. That's what we usually call an agile.
The agile approach.
The agile approach, and we really try to do that together. So that means that we build something, we try it out, on real projects, and then we find ways to improve that. So typically on these projects, we end up with a better results than we kind of envisioned when we started out. So that's part of that culture. But you have to have trust. You have to be in a safe environment. And one important thing is to build trust between organizations, which you usually get, through doing real work and to get real results together.
To really have that. But does that mean that mistakes are accepted?
Absolutely. There is in the digital world, there is innovation world, there is a concept of fail fast, right?
And that's not in the oil industry.
It's not traditional in the oil industry. But for me, again, failing fast doesn't mean to fail on a project. It means that you learn quickly, that you try different things. So you don't want to get completely married to one technology solution from the start of the project and then stick with that, to the very end. You need to be open to try new things and to try the different approaches, and that I think is a recipe for success on innovation.
Yeah, and I think just the fact that you have a global responsibility, because you will then probably, I'm just assuming, carry insights from one national team to the other. So you will be sort of the catalyst of bringing people into the same way of thinking and sharing the same type of insights.
Absolutely, we have a sharing culture within globally, and I have a team as well that is within the different domains that we work in that is responsible for this. So if you do something interesting in the Middle East, it was very quickly known across the world, and then can be adopted in other areas as well.
Yeah. Now I'm going to ask you a tricky question.
Sure.
In the sharing culture, how well would you say that the sharing culture is in place?
So, as we talked about, I think, working across silos in organization and between organizations is really important. To do that, we need a bit of an open approach and we are making a lot of headways, So also in our industry, we now have, for example, we have something called OSDU, which is starting in the subsurface. It's basically a standardization effort, which is going faster than any of the other standardization efforts that you may be familiar with from the past. So this is about the digital sharing of data, basically, or the digital data ecosystems that, so that we don't have data as the main obstacle to create these solutions going forward. And this is happening between oil companies and technology companies, and it's happening quicker, as I said, than it has in the past.
That's cool.
And then we're working on things like, the agreements. Since we're doing more and more of these type of projects, the industry is finding good ways to work together when it comes to intellectual property and things like that. So we're able to shortcut these discussions and move forward. So
the big scale sounds like it's pretty much in place. But how about on the personal and person-to-person scale? How is this? How's this really working in that context? So how much are you able to engage people in really trying out the new way or learning the new system and down to that level?
So to be part of these projects is no problem at all. In all organizations, there's a long list of people that want to be part of this innovation of these new projects that we're doing. Things that are happening, for example, is because this is a new toolbox with digital. And digital, we mean things like artificial intelligence, machine learning, cloud, things like that. And this is increasing the toolbox also for the domain experts that we talk about, the geophysicists and geologists, etc. So across the board, there's a lot of exciting kind of training programs that is happening right now, where people are getting multi-skilled, if you like, or there's a buzzword in the industry called T-shaping, where you have a domain and you also learn about the data science and the machine learning and things like that. And this is really important because even though as we said, the domain experts are not obsolete, they need to increase their toolbox. They need to understand how to use and how to apply this new technology.
So what's the next really important thing that you are working on in this context? What's the one big thing that you are now attacking?
I think what we often call energy transition or new energy, which is really the technologies beyond oil and gas, is really the hottest topic at the moment, and a lot of things are happening in that area. So this could be an area such as carbon capture and storage. How do you avoid emitting this carbon to the atmosphere and store it safely underground? And then it's about emissions control, from to reduce the amount of gases that are let out into the environment. It's about wind power. It's about managing complex energy systems. So a lot of technologies and innovation around these areas.
That sounds like complex matters that need to be solved. But back to this renewable versus traditional issue, I think some of the things that I've been trying to figure out is how can you transform in the energy transition? How can we make traditional oil engineers have a renewable approach and mindset and fit that transition in a successful way? It's a big question, but what's your thoughts? Let's start just with your thoughts on that.
I think it's interesting to see kind of from the inside that I see right now is that there is tremendous drive from employees in this industry to be part of this movement. And these are smart people, they are solving really hard problems traditionally in this industry, like, drilling a 10 kilometers long hole and then hitting the needle in the haystack, in the geology and the subsurface. We have really smart people, and we have companies and organizations capable of doing great things. We see a lot of momentum in this right now, and a lot of talk internally also in these companies about the energy transition at the moment and how to achieve these net zero targets that we talk about.
So this is within the company, but how about attracting new talent? But that must be because they don't really care so much about the oil and gas industry, but they sort of is really intrigued by the renewable sector. So how do you do that?
Well, luckily, a lot of what we do these days, even within oil and gas, is about a much cleaner industry, and it's about things that really have an impact on the environment. So this is one of the industries where you can really have an impact on what is happening in the future. So that is attracting people to the, and then of course we do have the really interesting technical challenges and the really good people to work with. So it is a very fascinating, energy is a very fascinating field at the moment with a lot of things happening.
Of course. But do you get the people you want in your recruiting campaigns? Do you get everyone that you would like to give an offer?
We have to compete, with all the other with all the other sectors, all the other industries. And I find that, but maybe it's because I work within innovation. We see a lot of interest in joining forces and being part of that. I ran the center in Silicon Valley, for example. We had huge internships programs with Stanford, data scientists from Stanford and Berkeley and other places. That was very, very popular.
Yeah.
But it is really about having an impact. They want to have an impact on the society, if you like, and to make a difference when they work on something. And they also want to work on interesting problems and with interesting people.
Yeah, and I think that itself is really interesting, because if you want to impact something, the closer you can get, the more you can impact. So I can definitely see that it's in order to do that, you can climb on board and manage it from there. But how about the young talent or the graduates, for instance, when they come on board? Do they experience that it is a renewable culture also, or do they meet a more traditional culture?
I think they do experience that, because they are working on projects which are pointing towards the carbon reduction, the net zero type of projects for the future. So I do think they see that culture when they when they see it from the inside of these companies.
So what would you say are the biggest differences between a renewable and a traditional culture, the way you have experienced it?
I think it's just the focus on things like the net zero. It's a very kind of clear vision that we have net zero carbon by 2050. That's among organizations, among governments, among people. This is a very clear target. It's very complex to achieve it, as we said already talked about. It's a balancing act. How to do it. Yeah. But that's a driver, and I think that is whether you work on renewables or you work within oil and gas technology, which is part of this equation for a long time into the future. I think having these goals in mind and everything we do is governed by these targets. I think that is the most important thing.
I had someone tell me that in the renewable culture you need to be faster, and you need to be more commercial, and you need to be even faster in just sharing and learning and picking up new things, and versus the traditional. So how can we, on a personal level, how can we train that? How do you train people to work faster or be more trusting in sharing their biggest asset, namely their competence?
So first of all, I think in 2022, that's an attribute across the board. It's not just renewables, but it's across industry. Things are much faster. We need results faster. We are impatient as we go forward. So how do we make that happen? Well, first of all, I think it's interesting because when I moved to California, I was in 2014. A lot has happened since then. The conversations that we have within the industry are completely different. The industry has several drivers that makes it necessary to change, and all companies are realizing that. So there is a culture. Not only do we have the toolbox and the platforms and the cloud infrastructures and all of that is required to make these changes happen, but we have companies and culture and an industry that needs to change, and that makes a huge difference. So that's a big driver.
Yeah.
So that I think is a key component of making this innovation and change happen.
Of course, and this is the issue, I think. So how can we make that, and how can we empower leaders to focus on that, not just production and operation, but really take. Are Schlumberger leaders measured on making that change? Is that in their leadership role assignment?
We do have that within our leadership role. The people aspect is very central to what we do, and we are measuring, and we are taking actions on this across teams at every level of the organization. Yeah. And we're just going through right now, one of these annual cycles that we have on this one, which we're taking very seriously and taking action on. Yeah. So the people aspects, the days of just technology and of technical project management are way gone. This is a lot about how do we make the organizations work well.
Right. With that, so this is your wake up call, tech people.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. So last question, Morten. Personally, how are your values in a fit or in a context to making innovation happen? What do you have on board personally that helps you? And then, of course, the second question will be, what would you like to have more of?
I think one of the big drivers for me is creating new organizations and new projects and new helping people develop and kind of take out all their potential, if you like. That's huge, and when you see that happen in practice, it's very satisfying as well as a leader to see that happen. So that I think is really important, even if the work that they do is technical. To create an organization that allows this to happen, that's tremendously rewarding, and I think very important also for the bottom line of the companies that are involved.
So, what kind of advice would you have to world leaders approaching in the oil and gas in the oil and gas industry that are onto an innovation approach? What would be your one best advice to them?
Well, I think from coming from an innovation perspective here, I think innovation is a fundamental part of transformation. If you're trying to do digital transformation without an aspect of innovation, I think we're not going to get the full potential out of it. So I think do consider an innovation program. Do consider to do that together with other companies so that you can get other ideas and to move faster together. So I think having an innovation program is really important, and then be open about working across organizations. Be open about kind of removing the silos within your own organization to move faster and better together, and then always have the business goals in mind. Let's not just have this driven by technology for its own sake, but always know what is it that we want to achieve for the individuals, for the companies, and for society.
That'll be great. So with that, I just want to thank you so much for sharing and being open in with us and for our listeners, and so much good luck going forward. And I'd love to see one of these happenings in the Innovation Factori project. So good luck and have a great summer.
Thank you very much, Tone.
Thank you. If you want to hear more stories like Morten's, you can go to our LinkedIn page, Culture Intelligence. And there you can find a lot of content, videos, articles, and other posts that you can benefit from in the innovation culture context.